What's up? This is the Friday Sports Riot on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Hoppy.
And I'm Ryan Stuffridge.
And on the phone line right now, he is a regular to our show. He is a freelancer, and he is on the phone line right now. What's up, Gabe Salgado?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We are doing good. So how has everything been since we last had you on the show, my man?
Well, same as last time, always busy. Don't get a whole lot of sleep and just out there grinding like you guys.
Yeah.
And let's start off talking about Anthony Rizzo and Chris Sale making the All-Star teams, making the final votes for the AL and NL. Are you happy that they're both going to be there and representing the city of Chicago?
I think it's great. It's great for the game. It's great for the city. I would hope that, Cubs and Sox fans could put aside their animosity towards one another for, those couple of days and realize, even though, the White Sox are barely hanging on to third place and the Cubs are at the bottom of their division, that it's good to see that, both teams are represented. Both guys, they definitely deserve it.
Now, Gabe, going back to your point, I don't see this animosity anymore. Maybe in 07 and 08 when it was more competitive, but to me, I think baseball in Chicago is sort of dead. Like, do you really think there's animosity between both fan bases?
I think there's always going to be some sort of contention between the two. It's always been like that, even before interleague play, when the teams would play each other as an exhibition game before the start of the season. I think that's always going to be there.
Yeah.
But I will admit you do have a point. It has died down to some degree over the last couple of years, especially with both teams kind of being, at the bottom of the league, so to speak. The Cubs, still in the rebuilding process. The White Sox were slowly starting to pick things back up. So I'm sure if both teams get back to greatness once again, you'll probably see that. But, I think one way or another that contention is always going to be there between the two sides.
And now, Gabe, going back to Chris Sale and Anthony Rizzo as they made the team, how great could they be for the Windy City? How much potential do both these players have?
Well, with Chris Sale, the fact that he was left off, the initial roster to begin with is kind of, I thought it was, that was bad because, aside from the short stint on the disabled list, Chris Sale has been one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. I mean, you take a look, he's only lost, one or two games all year. He's been really solid. When healthy, he's very effective. As for Anthony Rizzo, he's making that comeback. Last year, I think what it boiled down to him last year, having such a bad year was, he was kind of caved into the pressure. The Cubs, they don't necessarily have Hall of Fame first basemen in their history, but They have first basemen who have always been productive. And I think he just had too much pressure on him, and it kind of got to him. This year, he learned how to manage it better, and it shows in the numbers that he's put up. So I think both players, deserve it. They've definitely worked hard, and, it's good for the city altogether.
And, of course, the Cubs have had Alcantara. He's done pretty well these last few games. Do you think that he's a guy that could definitely be playing all season and eventually replace Darwin Barney on the roster?
Definitely. The big difference between these two is Alcantara is definitely a faster player, and he's better offensively. Darwin Barney's more of a defensive player, doesn't always come through at the plate when you need him to. So I definitely think that it's a huge possibility that he'll definitely take the place of Darwin Barney someday, perhaps maybe as early as next season or the end of this season. He's definitely got some potential.
And now, Gabe, there's some breaking news. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but LeBron James is returning to the town on Lake Erie. What is your take as he is going back to Cleveland after 4 years in South Beach?
He talks about having redemption. He talks about time healing all wounds and mending fences with the fan base. Now he has to deliver. Granted, they got Kyrie Irving. They got Wiggins for now, although they've talked about possibly trading him for Kevin Love. But whatever the case may be, LeBron James is going to have to deliver now if he wants to get that redemption that he's talking about.
Who should they have on the team? Should they trade for Kevin Love, or do you think they should be with the potential of Andrew Wiggins? If you were the GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers, what should they do?
I'd say stick with Wiggins because him and Kyrie Irving, there's your backcourt right there. Right. It'll probably be one of the best backcourts in the league. I think that, trading for Kevin Love is a big risk, and it's definitely a big risk to the future considering Love's been in the league a few years already.
Yeah.
And, I definitely think that they should stick with the young talent and go with the potential that they have there in that backcourt.
Do you think that they'll be contenders right away, or do you think that maybe a team like the Bulls and Pacers could upset them in the playoffs during their first year?
regardless of how you may feel about LeBron James, obviously he's not one of the most liked players in the league, but he instantly makes your team better. Yeah. And they're definitely going to be better on the offensive side. I definitely could see them winning, 40 games this year.
Yeah.
If they keep everything intact and put, other talent around the three of them. So I definitely think that they'll get better. Postseason, I think that's a bit of a stretch considering the team's still technically rebuilding, but they'll definitely be much improved this year.
Now, Mark, you just said that King James isn't that likable. Don't you think him returning to Cleveland will change all that and pretty much get rid of all the hate?
It will if they win. And, winning cures everything that ails you in any sport. And I definitely think that if they win, it'll definitely start to, pull things back together for him.
Now let's turn on to the other free agent who is still deciding where he wants to go. Carmelo Anthony, he's narrowed it down to the Bulls and Knicks. And since it's taking so long, he's probably torn. Like, he's honestly torn between the two.
Yeah.
If you were Carmelo Anthony, where do you think he'll end up?
I would hope that he would go to the Bulls for the chance of winning.
Me too.
I think what it sounds like, he's torn between winning now as opposed to winning later or towards the end of his career, or he's torn between do I take the money and give my family the comfort in New York City that they've enjoyed for so long. So I think that's what it's boiling down to. I would hope that at the end of the day he chooses the Bulls and realizes that it's going to be another couple of years before the Knicks are competitive again. And the Bulls, they have the tools in place to be competitive right now. So I would hope that, he would choose the Bulls, even if it's just for 3-4 years. They definitely have a better chance to win than he would if he were to go to New York.
And now I've asked our guests this on the show today, and I want to get your take on it. I'm a Bulls, Lakers, and then Bobcats fan, and now they're the Hornets. And now I'm so annoyed with what's going on with the Lakers. I feel like Jim Buss is taking his franchise right into the ground as he signed Jeremy Lin. I get it's an expiring contract, but I feel like it's a consolation prize because they can't get Melo and they can't get LeBron James, and this team's just sinking. So what is your take as the Lakers signed Jeremy Lin today?
Well, I'll tell you this, he's definitely going to start the season on the bench if Steve Nash is healthy, because Steve Nash and Kobe Bryant are the only other players they have signed for next season. I know they drafted Julius Randle, but I'm not sure if he signed a contract yet. But, Jeremy Lin's going to start the season on the bench unless Nash is injured again. I know a couple of years back in New York, Jeremy Lin had that breakout year. He's kind of slowed down since then. And, when Houston made the pitch to Carmelo Anthony, that kind of rubbed Jeremy Lin the wrong way, so he wanted out. And, I don't know if going to the Lakers is the ideal situation for him, but I'm sure he'll try and make the most of it.
And real quick, we wanted to talk about the World Cup final on Sunday. It's going to be a really good game between Argentina and Germany. Who do you think is going to win this game?
That's really tough because it's going to come down to whoever gets, the one last defensive stop, because there's going to be a lot of points scored, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We're definitely going to see a few goals from both sides. So it's going to come down to who, makes enough defensive stops at the end of the day. I wouldn't be surprised if this came down to perhaps extra time or even penalty kicks again.
And now, Gabe, we had Mark Grote on the show, and he said that you owe him dinner. What is this about, my man?
I guess he forgot that I took him out to dinner a few weeks ago. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess maybe his memory's slipping because, he's kind of an old man.
Oh, man.
He's a lot older than I am, that's for sure. So, Mark, I think he's just getting a little senile at his age.
What is going on with you guys? There seems like there's some tension between you guys. Like, what's going on? Is everything okay, Gabe?
Oh, Mark and I mean, Mark's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's one of the few good guys. He's one of the few good guys in this business. I worked with him for a long time over at WBBM. So, Mark, definitely one of the better guys in this business. Good guy to hang out with, and Mark, him and I, oh man, I tell you, we should do stand-up comedy because we could insult each other like crazy and make everybody laugh. So, I definitely think that would be something worth looking into. But we're both pretty busy. But Mark Grote is definitely a good guy.
Here's to hoping we see the roast of Mark Grote and the roast of Gabe Salgado, as that would make radio gold. And now, real quick, before we let you go, where can people find your work online so people can catch up with everything going on with Gabe Salgado?
Follow me on Twitter at Gabe Salgado82. That'll also link you to my Facebook page, and also look up Gabe Salgado on LinkedIn. you could find me there as well, and I post everything on all 3 of my pages. And then also you can go to YouTube and type Gabe Salgado on the search engine, and my YouTube channel will come up as well.
Well, Gabe, have a good weekend, my man. And here's to hoping that somehow, in some way, Carmelo Anthony signs with the Chicago Bulls. Am I right, my man?
Definitely. And I'll tell you what, next time you guys talk to Mark Grote, tell him if I owe him dinner, he owes me lunch.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks,
good,
Gabe.
All right, guys.
And here's my response to that. Man, it sounds like there's some tension going on, but maybe it's a joke. Ryan?
Oh, it's all a running gag. I mean.
Hey.
That's what it's all about.
Pretty funny.
Coming up, the Friday Sports Riot.
We are going to wrap everything up, but first, when we come back, we are going to recap everything that Gabe Salgado said on the show. And Ryan, if they want to call us and get in contact, what's the number?
If you'd like to interact, you can call 630-403-5200, 630-403-5200.
And I'm on Twitter at HoppyRadio893. What's your Twitter handle?
At Ryan Stuprich, STUPRICH.
And we will be right back on the Friday Sports Riot here on SportsTownChicago.com. After this, hang on.
The Hoppy and Cigarette Show.